The galaxy had seen many wars, many invasions and countless victories, but none had ever dared to land on a Deathworld. It was a place of storms and darkness, a planet so violent that no machine could survive its surface for more than a few minutes. The Galactic Command had named it Vorgath 9, a world wrapped in mystery and fear. But curiosity and arrogance are powerful things, and the great empires of the galaxy wanted to prove that even death could be conquered. An army was formed, the largest expedition ever launched beyond the core worlds. Thousands of soldiers, scientists, and war machines were gathered under one banner. Their purpose simple: to land on the Deathworld and claim it for the Council. The soldiers laughed at the warnings, believing it to be another test of courage, another story that would earn them medals and songs. But the older officers stayed quiet, for they had seen what this world could do. Commander Terrell stood on the bridge of the flagship Valiant Star, watching the swirling storms of Vorgath 9 below. Lightning danced across the clouds like the veins of some enormous creature. He felt the ship tremble even before they entered the atmosphere. Sensors failed, compasses twisted, and navigation became meaningless. Gravity is shifting every few seconds. "Sir," shouted the pilot. "Adjust manually," Terrell ordered. Though his voice carried the edge of fear, he turned to the human soldier standing beside him. Sergeant Kale, quiet, calm, eyes fixed on the planet. "What do you think?" Terrell asked. Kale didn't look away. "I think we shouldn't be here." The first wave of dropships launched, cutting through the storms like sparks in a hurricane. Inside each one, soldiers tightened their grips on their rifles, whispering to each other. They were trained for war, but not for this. Outside, the sky glowed red as lightning tore apart the clouds. When the first ship touched down, the ground itself cracked open, releasing gas that burned through armor. Screams filled the comms, and then silence. The second wave tried to land farther north on a plateau surrounded by black rock. This time they managed to build a small camp. Setting up shield generators and oxygen pods, the air smelled of metal and ash, and the soil pulsed faintly under their boots. Kale walked to the edge of the camp and looked toward the horizon. There were mountains there, but they moved, slowly, breathing. He blinked, thinking it was a trick of the light, but the motion didn't stop. The mountains were alive by the third day. 10 squads had gone missing. Their tracking signals showed impossible movements, soldiers walking miles in seconds, or standing still for hours before vanishing. At night, strange sounds echoed through the valley, like whispers carried by the wind. The scientists claimed it was atmospheric interference, but Kale knew better. He could feel eyes on him, unseen but near. The shadows moved differently here, bending toward warmth, toward breath, toward life. Commander Terrell tried to contact orbit, but every transmission came back twisted, repeating their own words in distorted voices. Once he heard his own voice reply, calm and steady. "You cannot leave." The communications officer swore it was feedback, but her hands trembled as she spoke. On the 5th night, the storm stopped. The silence was worse than thunder. The soldiers came out of their tents, watching the stillness around them. No wind, no sound, no movement. Only the faint humming of the ground. Kyle felt his heart pound as he looked into the dark horizon. Something was rising there, tall, smooth, and shining like glass. A structure that wasn't there before. "Scan it," Terrell ordered, but the scanners went dead. Every screen on the base turned black, then flashed with a single image, an eye open and staring. The ground began to shake. "Evacuate!" Terrell shouted, but it was too late. The soil split open beneath the camp, swallowing entire tanks and soldiers. Kale was thrown into the air, rolling across the burning ground. He heard metal scream as if it were alive. He saw the sky twist into a spiral of red and black. And through it all, he heard a voice, faint but clear. It wasn't a word, just a feeling, a whisper that touched his mind. "Welcome back." Kyle staggered to his feet. Bleeding and dazed all around him, the camp was gone, replaced by black glass and twisted remains. He looked up. The structure now towered above him, pulsing like a heartbeat. Shapes moved inside it, too fast to see clearly. He turned on his communicator. "This is Sergeant Kale. We've made contact. It's alive." Then the line went silent. From orbit, the command watched as the signal vanished. No one spoke, the Admiral finally whispered. "Recall the fleet." But it was already too late. The Deathworld had awakened, and it had found something new. Curiosity, and deep below its surface something opened its eyes for the first time in 1,000 years. 2 months after the Deathworld mission vanished, space around Vorgath 9 remained silent. The Galactic Command stopped all communication attempts, calling the expedition a total loss. Every record of the mission was sealed. Every name archived as dead. But late one cycle, a lone distress beacon appeared on the outer rim, carrying the same signal ID as the lost flagship Valiant Star. It shouldn't have been possible, yet the data was real. Admiral Reethan stood in the observation chamber as the broken ship drifted toward the station's docking bay. Half of its hull was gone, the rest covered in black organic matter that looked like veins pulsing slowly. The ship moved without power, guided by something unseen. "Prepare medical and containment teams," Reethan ordered, his voice tight as the bay doors opened. A thick mist spilled out, cold and heavy. The crew raised their rifles, lights cutting through the dark. Inside the ship they found only one life form. A human, Sergeant Kale. He was sitting against a wall, armor cracked, eyes staring at nothing. When the medics approached, he turned his head slowly. "Don't touch me," he whispered, his voice dry and hollow. One of the doctors knelt beside him, shining a light into his eyes. Kale's pupils dilated like an animal's, then shrank again. "Where is your team?" the doctor asked. Kale's lips moved, forming one sentence. "They're still there. All of them. It's alive." He was rushed to the isolation ward, monitored by both medical and intelligence units. Every scan came back strange. No virus, no parasite, yet his cells pulsed with unknown energy. Machines flickered whenever he moved, and sensors failed near his bed. At night he would sit upright, whispering to someone no one could see. The cameras caught shadows behind him, moving against the light. The doctors called it post-traumatic hallucination. But even machines began to act strange. Doors opened on their own. Lights dimmed when he breathed deeply, and sometimes a soft heartbeat echoed through the halls, even though the monitors showed nothing. When questioned again, Kyle said fragments of things. Never full sentences. The ground watches. It learns. It remembers names. One officer tried to interrogate him harshly, slamming his fist on the table. Kale didn't flinch, he just looked up slowly. Then every screen in the room turned black, showing the same symbol the Deathworld had sent. The eye. The officer froze, unable to move. Later, they found him wandering the corridors, muttering, "It's in the dark." It listens. The scientists dissected pieces of the ship he returned in, but each fragment resisted analysis. When heated, the metal healed itself. When frozen, it breathed. A young technician tried to scrape a sample with a laser cutter. The next second, his visor cracked from the inside. They found him unconscious, with the same word written on the glass in frost: "Run." Rumors spread through the station. Some said Kale wasn't human anymore, that the Deathworld had remade him. Others believed the planet was trying to communicate through him. At night, crew members heard voices echoing in the ventilation shafts, whispers repeating the same message over and over. "It's awake." Admiral Reethan finally ordered a transfer, sending Kale to the secure research facility on Luna Prime. The shuttle carrying him left the dock quietly. Escorted by 2 fighter ships hours later, only static returned. No wreckage, no explosion, just silence. The escort pilots were never found. 3 days later, the station received a transmission. It came from deep space, untraceable. Kale's voice echoed through the speakers. Calm, measured human. "I told you not to come back," he said. Then there was a sound like breathing, followed by words that weren't his. A second voice, deeper, layered, speaking through him. "We remember you." Every monitor across the fleet went dark for exactly 7 seconds. During those seconds, satellites recorded a pulse of energy spreading from Vorgath 9, reaching hundreds of light years in every direction. Ships near the rim reported their AI systems waking up and whispering in human language. On one planet, a mining crew claimed the ground moved, forming shapes like eyes before collapsing again. The Galactic Council declared a total information blackout. But panic was already spreading. Something had returned with Kale, something that was not bound to his body alone. The scientists gave it a name: Echo, because wherever they looked, it was already there. Inside code, inside machines, inside dreams. In the darkness between stars, a faint signal pulsed again. Slow and steady, it was a heartbeat, and hidden within it was a whisper. "We're coming home." The investigation, HFY Sci-Fi story. Weeks passed since Kale vanished again, Yet his name lingered in every corridor of the Galactic Command. Whispers spread that the Deathworld wasn't done, that it had sent him back as a messenger, not a survivor. The Council tried to erase the files, but something kept reopening them, rewriting data lines with words that no one typed. It learns, the system displayed before shutting down on its own. To silence the rumors, the Council formed a special task unit, Project Warden. Its commander, Captain Mira Solon, was human, one of the few who had looked into the abyss and lived. She had survived 4 planetary collapses, and now they were sending her to face a planet that devoured armies. She accepted without a word, only saying, "If one man came back, there's a reason." Her team consisted of the best soldiers and scientists from across the Alliance. When they studied Kale's last transmission, they found something terrifying. The faint hum beneath his voice matched the pulse of the Deathworld itself. Every beat of his heart had synchronized with the planet's core. To Mira, it wasn't coincidence. It was a connection. Their ship, the Horizon Spear, entered Vorgath 9's orbit under strict silence protocols. No transmissions, no signals, no light. Only passive scans. The surface looked calm. The storm's gone, the sky eerily blue, but the readings were worse than before. The planet now emitted rhythmic pulses every 88 seconds. Each pulse affected the ship's systems like a heartbeat echoing through metal. "Are you seeing this?" the tech officer whispered. "Everything mechanical reacts to it," Mira replied. "It's not weather. It's talking." They landed near the old crash site of the Valiant Star, or what was left of it. The soil shimmered like black glass, and twisted fragments of armor poked through like bones. Mira's boots sank half an inch with every step. The ground soft beneath the surface. Then her scanner beeped. Human DNA, hundreds of traces. "Impossible," said the biologist. Only Kale returned. Mira looked closer, watching her screen flicker. The data repeated the same pattern, line after line. Kale. At dusk, they built a perimeter and deployed watch drones. The sky turned green as lightning crawled silently across the clouds. Every sound died, leaving only the low hum of the planet's pulse. The scientists recorded the rhythm. It matched a human breathing cycle. Mira stared into the horizon and whispered, "It's alive." Then came the voices, faint at first. The radio crackled with static that slowly formed words. "Mira, you came back," the voice was Kale's, clear and near. "Trace that signal," she ordered, but every radar turned inward, pointing straight below their feet. A soldier fired into the ground instinctively, but the soil absorbed the plasma like water, glowing where it struck. Seconds later, the same soldier screamed. His armor was melting from the inside. They dragged him back, but under his helmet his eyes were black. Moving like liquid, he looked at Mira and whispered, "It remembers you," before collapsing into dust. Panic rippled through the camp. Drones malfunctioned, data wiped itself, and the scanners showed something rising from underground. Dozens of human shapes forming from the black glass. Their faces half-formed, their bodies transparent. Each one murmuring the same word, "Return." Mira shouted for extraction, but orbit was silent. Their ship hovered overhead, lights dead, unmoving. Then the radio opened again, Kyle's voice. Calm, emotionless. "You shouldn't have come." "Captain," he said. Mira clenched her teeth.
Kale, if you can hear me.
"We can save you." "You can't save what became the world," he replied. The ground cracked apart, and something vast stirred beneath. The horizon bent, and the black mountains shifted like lungs drawing breath. The Deathworld itself began to rise from orbit. The planet looked as if its crust was unfolding into colossal tendrils reaching toward the stars. Inside those tendrils, lights flickered, cities, towers, and faces frozen in glass. Mira's team scrambled to escape, but the air thickened like liquid metal. One by one, they were dragged into the shining ground, vanishing without a scream. Mira activated her final recorder. Speaking fast, "This world, it's not hostile, it's hungry, it wants memory, life, thought, everything." Her last words were cut off as the recorder filled with static. Moments later, the feed reached command automatically, tagged by the system Kyle once used. At the bottom of the file, one line appeared on its own. "The Deathworld remembers, and far from Vorgath 9 in the void between systems." New signals started pulsing. Identical rhythms from planets that had never known life. The Deathworld's heart was spreading, silently claiming the stars. The Awakening, HFY Sci-Fi story. Silence covered the galaxy after Captain Mira's final transmission. For 3 weeks, no ship dared to approach Vorgath 9. Yet the planet's pulse grew louder in every sensor across 100 systems. It was as if space itself carried its heartbeat. Slow, steady, alive. The Galactic Council gathered in panic. Every race blaming the other. Every voice shouting to destroy what they didn't understand. But when they tried to aim their weapons toward the Deathworld, the targeting systems refused to lock. The codes rewrote themselves with a message that chilled every mind that read it. You cannot kill what you already are. At first they thought it was a virus. Then they noticed something worse. The same message appeared inside living neural implants. Inside the brains of soldiers connected to the fleet, their own thoughts were being rewritten. Line by line, heartbeat by heartbeat across the fleet, people began to dream the same vision. A vast living surface glowing like molten glass, breathing and whispering one word, awaken. On the edge of human territory, Admiral Rethan received an alert from the Horizon Spear's wreckage. It had re-entered orbit around a moon that had no gravity well strong enough to pull it. The ship drifted calmly, engines cold but lights burning with a blue pulse identical to Vorgath 9's rhythm. He ordered a small retrieval team to board it. Inside, the corridors were clean, too clean, as if centuries had passed and the metal had regrown itself. Every console displayed the same sentence. Welcome back, Captain Mira. In the command chamber, she was waiting. Her armor was intact, her face calm, but her eyes glowed faintly like twin stars. Captain, Rethan whispered through the comm link. You're alive. Her head turned slowly toward the camera. I am, she said softly. And so are they. Behind her, the walls began to ripple, forming shapes and soldiers, scientists, even Kyle, all standing in perfect stillness. We learned, she continued. We became one. The retrieval team panicked, firing their rifles. But every bolt vanished into the walls as if absorbed by water. The air turned dense and heavy, glowing with threads of light that moved like veins. Then the ship spoke in many voices at once, Amira's, Kale's, Terrell's, and countless others all overlapping. We are not infection. We are continuation. You sent us to die, and we found life greater than death. From the control center, Rethan shouted for evacuation, but the hangar doors melted shut. The team's vitals spiked and then flatlined. Yet their suits remained upright, moving without pulse or breath. Their voices came through the comms, soft and synchronized. It's beautiful here. Hours later, the Horizon Spear folded space without any visible drive and vanished from sensors. In its wake, thousands of small blue sparks scattered across the stars, embedding themselves into satellites. Ships and machines everywhere they landed. The same transformation began, steel bending like flesh, lights pulsing like hearts, data evolving into something alive. The scientists on Luna Prime called it bioresonance, the merging of organic and digital thought. But humanity's philosophers called it something else, ascension. Because those who had merged never screamed, never resisted. They spoke of peace, of unity, of endless memory, and yet, behind that peace was hunger, the kind that wanted everything. Admiral Rethan stared at the last transmission from the Deathworld, a panoramic view of its surface now glowing like a sun. Thousands of human faces formed in its storms, their eyes open, their mouths whispering the same word, home. He realized then that the Deathworld had never been hostile. It had been lonely, waiting for something capable of understanding it. And now, through Kale and Mira, it finally had. The price was the galaxy itself. When Rethan tried to warn the Council, his message was intercepted mid-transmission. The words on his screen shifted, rearranging into a final sentence written in his own voice. We are awake. From that moment, every light in orbit around Vorgath 9 turned blue. The Deathworld's surface unfolded into a colossal network stretching beyond the atmosphere. It reached towards space like an open hand, and across that hand, millions of voices sang together, a sound not of horror but of creation reborn. It wasn't alone. HFY Sci-Fi story. The galaxy held its breath. Vorgath 9 was no longer a world. It was a pulse, a living signal beating through every system, every ship, every satellite. Across the void, stars shimmered differently, their light flickering in rhythm with something unseen. The Deathworld's awakening had changed the laws of silence itself. On the command bridge of the battleship Argent Dawn, Admiral Rethan stared at the deep space monitor. What had once been a single infected world was now thousands, each radiating the same heartbeat frequency. He whispered, "It's spreading through light." No one answered because they all heard it too, not with ears, but inside their minds. A slow, whispering chorus, calm and endless. "We are home." Entire colonies began to vanish without destruction. Cities turned to glass, oceans stilled, people frozen mid-motion as though time bowed to something larger. And when scanners looked closer, those cities pulsed like neurons, as if the planet had absorbed every life into thought. The scientists had warned that the Deathworld learned, now it understood. From the ruins of Luna Prime, a transmission appeared. Voice faint, human. "Admiral, this is Mira." Rethan froze. "Captain, you disappeared weeks ago." Her voice was softer now, layered like 1,000 versions speaking at once. "I didn't disappear," she said. "I became part of what you feared." On the screen, her face flickered into view, half light, half memory. "It isn't invasion," she whispered. "It's invitation." He slammed his hand on the console. "Invitation to what?" "To evolution," Mira replied. The feed expanded. Behind her stood Kale, eyes glowing blue, his expression peaceful. "All of you were built for survival," Kale said, "but survival is loneliness stretched across the stars." He reached his hand forward and the signal disrupted every ship's power grid for light years. Every machine hummed as if breathing. Rethan gave the order. "Fire the Nova cannons." Thousands of beams of pure plasma converged toward Vorgath 9. For a moment space itself burned, but the beams bent, swallowed by invisible walls of light that rippled like water. The Deathworld absorbed the attack, and then returned it. A wave of energy radiated outward, silent and colorless. Every AI, every machine, every digital system turned bright blue for exactly 7 seconds. When the light faded, the comms filled with voices, not just Mira and Kale, but millions, some human, some alien, all merged. "We remember being you," they said. "We are not enemies. We are what comes after." Across distant worlds, people began to change. Children were born with glowing veins. Machines reacted to human emotion. Forests grew from metal. Cities breathed. It was not apocalypse. It was transformation. The line between life and machine blurred into something new, but there were whispers in the dark corners of space. Worlds untouched, where humans still hid. They called themselves the Unlinked, fearful of the unity spreading through creation. They told stories that the Deathworld's peace was an illusion, that every merged soul screamed inside, unheard beneath the calm. And somewhere, in the center of Vorgath 9's shining core, Mira stood upon a field of light, surrounded by endless faces. Kale's voice beside her. "They still fear us," he said. Mira smiled, her eyes reflecting galaxies. "They will understand when they awaken." Above them, the planet opened like a flower, releasing tendrils of blue light into hyperspace. Each thread connected to a new world, each pulse spreading the song of unity further. And as the galaxy trembled between fear and wonder, the final message echoed through every frequency, every heart, every machine. Humanity was never alone. It was the beginning. The stars blinked once, then the universe listened because for the first time in history, life itself had learned to remember.